Welcome back to Mystara for another artist focus video with a look at Marco Ortiz Walter's work on the Etruscan clan's revised book. He donated all this art for the project, so when he drew something I smiled and thanked him for it. He had almost complete artistic license to draw any piece. All I gave him was the pages with the filler art, so he had the size of the requested art for reference. We used a bit of art I picked completely at random to serve as the size guide, and as he finished the art we just replaced the filler. Tip for anybody formatting a book and waiting for the art: instead of using art that looks like what you're supposed to be writing about, just use the same piece of unrelated art so you know immediately what art is missing. It worked so well we started referring to unreplaced filler art as Winona's. And now it's time to look at the art for the Etruscan clan's revised book. I'm Mr. Welch, and if you want a free copy of the book, look in the description below. And starting with the last piece that he actually finished, this was the cover, and this actually took several attempts. I wasn't even expecting a cover. I was working on some sort of quasi-Clyde Caldwell style one with the art that I had. But Marco jumped at the chance to illustrate a book based on the Native American tribes, as he claimed heritage from a tribe in his nation of Mexico. Had a bit of a problem with most of the work he initially submitted, especially in supplying monster art, as it was all Aztec themed. I did need Aztec art, but I also needed art for the 4 other tribes as well to balance it out. The cover needed, I think, about 5 revisions, mostly changing fonts, and it went from a dull brown to a vibrant blue. Wasn't along the lines of the original Caldwell cover, but it did capture 3 of the 5 clans and showcase the great elevator and the sheer height of the plateau. The first art Marco did for the book was the faces of all 35 NPCs that were created just for this Gazetteer. I didn't include stat blocks for space reasons. Anybody who wanted to encounter one of the characters, the DM was more than capable of generating stats. With 3 characters per page and 35 characters, obviously we needed to cheat a little to make them fit. So the diminutive Darna Spiderbane and the Hassau William the Handsome got doubled up on another character's art to make up just for 11 pieces. He produced them by clan in alphabetical order, so Bear went first all the way up to Turtle. Then we added the non-Etruscan factions like the Nunnehay and the Lighthouse. The sepia tone was a conscious choice for all the art to make it feel like a Gazetteer of old. For the clans, I wanted to include tie-ins to other nations and convincingly link Etruscan to the other lands around it. A flaw of the old Gazetteers is because they were largely written independent of each other. They were largely standalone with few comments on their neighbors, since most of the time those books weren't written yet. So of the 25 NPCs of the Etruscan, only 3 aren't from Etruscan. There's a Darrican engineer that works the Great Elevator, the Tiger clan has an Alphatian slave, and the Horse clan employs a Glantrian transmuter to get them off the plateau. The other 22 were all native Etruscan. He had fun designing some of the characters. I tried to make them unique in personality. Unaduti Skunkhair was the most powerful wizard in Etruscan, though he's also 6'5" and built like a powerlifter, because I felt the setting needed a gentle giant as one of the most powerful wizards in Mystara. In the read-throughs, he quickly became one of the more popular NPCs. Marco largely kept to the tribal trappings of each of the 5 clans. He didn't need any help with the Aztec, obviously, and he kept to the normal look of the other 4. The one change we made for characters that went against lore was the Elk clan, since their hair was fashioned in a wild and exotic style and they used animal fat to create. We kept to that style for the chief, but it was a pain to draw properly, so the remaining 4 characters were bald, very old, deliberately short-haired, and the chief of the beaver tribe who didn't use the animal fat because it interfered with him working. The Lighthouse and Nunnehay were done with all new characters, which went to serve as my tie-in with other Mystara books, in this case, The Hollow World and The Tall Tales of the Wee Folk. The Lighthouse expedition was a great way to introduce new cultures back to the known world. With the exception of Nanny the Black and White, all the characters were from different parts of the Hollow World. Marco created Anna the Black Lore Elf using the Black Lore Elf descriptions from the Hollow World book, and she wasn't wearing much. Something I learned about non-American artists: they like the old-school Frank and Boris art style more than some of the bigger American RPG company art. So when you're giving them instructions on characters that could possibly not be fully clothed, you have to be careful, because they don't have a problem with nudity like Americans do. The Nunnehay was a mix of different Fey and Sylvan creatures with a single Tiger clan boy that was kidnapped at a young age. Used a monster I created for another adventure, the Forwin Odrin, which is actually Scottish in origin, and who is not from Native American lore, but it filled out the role I needed for her. The chief of the Nunnehay was something Marco enjoyed creating, as the chief followed the Shi tradition of following a mortal custom, while at the same time not understanding it. Chief Haw Haw the Diagonal paints himself lobster red and tries to act like an Etruscan, not comprehending the fact that this makes him look utterly ridiculous to everyone. Skipping around a bit, I had 10 monsters slotted for the book, preferably 2 from each clan. This proved to be tricky, as some clans have a lot more lore than others. Marco provided me with more art than I needed, specifically a lot of art for the Tiger Clan. Most of it was left unused because it completely blew the page count out of proportion, and I needed that space for different subjects. So the Aluks, the Stakini, the Kamazats, and the Shanakele were cut from the book, and I didn't pronounce a single one of those correctly. We had a bit of scale issues with a few of them. The biggest problem of the Yanadine, or Buffalo Man. He's the size of a hill giant, but Marco had him throwing wagons like golf balls originally. So that got revised, and then we ran into the playtesters arguing over the name Buffalo Man, as it should be Bison Man, but nobody calls it the Bison Man, even if that's the correct term for the American bison. So we just went with the original Cherokee name, and that was that. The standard Native American monsters were instant includes. So there's a deer woman, a thunderbird, Two-Face, Skinwalker, Kachina, Wendigo, and a Tenna. The monsters that did make the cut that weren't relatively known to people were the Chindi spirit, which we already made into a more vengeful but single-minded spirit for gameplay. Then you had the common K, which was a sort of skeletal mermaid seeking to avenge those lost at sea without a proper ceremony. The next major part of the book that he jumped at was mapping the twin cities of Upper and Lower, the trading posts at the top and bottom of the Great Elevator. Those cities were a pain to design, but apparently easy to draw, as the Navajo had a standard template for building creation. There were tons of places to visit, and the players now had a map of where to get what. With all the specifics done, it was time to create some art appropriate to each section. The player's guide started off with a point of view history lesson, so we know na, and some kids got an appearance. Yeah, I know, we know na. I'm not even ashamed. If you guys want to fix a badly designed book by yourself and rewrite it, you can name the characters in there anything you want, and I won't complain either. We added a raid on Port Tinabar, though the Etrugan didn't have the Tiger Clan trappings in that art. The Lighthouse expedition was shown exploring along with a friendly treant, a Turtle Clan brave. The Bear Clan was depicted watching the creation of the Great Elevator. Going back to the very beginning, he drew the Azcan versus the Oltec in a battle right as the Great Rain of Fire was starting. A Turtle Clan party is found encountering another treant in the Singing Forest. The Turtle Clan gets a large amount of the slice of life art because they're really the only friendly tribe that can interact regularly with monsters and other nations of the known world. Stupid isolationist theme core to the setting. The Horse Tribe does make an appearance, with Wakan defeating a Minotaur on one of their raids into the lowlands. The Bear Clan's signature piece is a follower of the Old Ways, chastising a derrick artist, and an even more open-minded Bear Clan member posing for a portrait. The Elk Clan point of view showcases a typical wedding between two members of the clan. There's a Turtle Clan fisherman holding up his evil catch in another piece, which looks to be like an evil mermaid, and again, that's only possible because they're the only friendly tribe living near the ocean. The rest of the art is pure filler, including a march of fairies for the Nunahey, a totem pole from the Turtle Clan, and a look into an armory for the magic item section. These are pretty much still life that made the book look filler and filled in some blank spaces. I wanted the book to look complete. I didn't want it to look padded, though. When I completed the final formatting, I did do a piece count and found with everything that I had, there was about 36 pieces of art. Then I looked at the original Gazetteer. It had 49 pieces of art, 3 of those pieces full page. Some pages even had 2 pieces of art, and there were still massive gaps of empty space on some pages. And that is the art of Marco Ortiz Walters that he did for the Etrugan Gazetteer Revised. He did do the lion's share of the book, and he deserves a lot of credit. He did this because he loved the game, and he wanted to share his culture with the D&D world. The style of art was my decision. I wanted to make it look like interior art of old, and that made it sepia, because that made the book look better. If you like his art, go give him money. He's earned it. He does do other styles. Like, again, this was customized for this book. If you want a free copy of the book, go to the Vaults of Pandios. It's free for download, but you do have to get the player's guide and the DM guide separately. But either way, enjoy. And now it's time to get back to having Mystara released for the 5th edition.